Base jumping is an extreme sport where those doing it jump from a fixed structure such as a building, bridge or a cliff, then deploy a parachute to land safely. Unlike skydiving performed from a lower altitude, there's little room for error. The high risk and precision involved make it both thrilling and dangerous, and for that reason, the United States National Park Service has mostly banned the sport throughout their parks. The infamous El Capitan, a 3,000-foot granite monolith in Yosemite National Park, was, and occasionally still is, despite being banned, irresistible to base jumpers. Although legal in the park in the 1980s, restrictions on when people could jump and the number of jumps per day were routinely violated, so it was banned outright. Rangers will arrest anyone caught jumping, seize their equipment, and put them in jail. Fines run as high as $5,000. Needless to say, this isn't popular among base jumping enthusiasts and has led to several protests, one of which in 1999 led to 2 separate incidents that resulted in what I'm calling the channel's first ever double Darwin Award. On the 9th of June 1999, 28-year-old Frank Gamboli stood atop the summit of El Capitan, the park's most infamous peak. Yosemite Valley lay more than 3,000 feet below, sliced by the Merced River. After pulling a stone from his pocket and dropping it to follow its trajectory, calculating its rate of fall against the wind, Gamboli would haul himself over the edge. Accelerating to a heart-stopping 120 miles per hour, he deployed his chute around 1,500 feet from the valley floor and landed safely. Of course, he had just broken the rules, and park rangers watching were making their way to arrest him. However, instead of allowing himself to be caught, Gamboli dropped his chute, smiled at the rangers, then sprinted into the woods toward the Merced River. Approaching the riverbank, he dumped his gear, flipped off the rangers, and jumped in to escape. Unfortunately, he had underestimated the currents. The force of the river, compounded by the swirl of white water, sucked him under after hitting the rapids. His body lay submerged in the icy water until being found just 360 yards from where he had dived in 1 month later. However, you'd be wrong if you thought this was where the story ended. In protest for what many in the base jumping community saw as needless, heavy-handed tactics that led to the death of Gamboli, a protest was organized at El Capitan on Friday, the 22nd of October, 1999. His mother joined more than 150 people, including friends and families of the 5 people who intended to base jump from the summit of El Capitan, in what was supposed to be a carefully staged demonstration that base jumping from El Capitan was safe. The jumpers, accompanied by rangers at the top of the peak, agreed to land in the designated area, be arrested and forfeit their equipment, and pursue their opposition to the ban in court. Among the 5 who intended to jump was 60-year-old veteran base jumper Jan Davis. To prevent confiscation of her own gear when she landed, she had borrowed someone else's. Whilst the first 3 jumpers leapt without a hitch, going second to last was Jan. Stepping up, she leapt. However, when the time came to deploy her parachute, she couldn't find the ripcord. Unlike hers, which was located on her back, the parachute she had borrowed had the ripcord on the leg. Never finding it, her body hit the cliff base, sending a booming echo off the rock that thundered across the valley. In the aftermath of her death, base jump gear manufacturer Martin Tilley said that Jan would have jumped without 100% security with her equipment is outrageous. Know your equipment. That's a given in base jumping. This is Instagram influencer 27-year-old Beatriz Tavares de Silva Faria and 37-year-old Arlene Tamara Moreira de Amorim. On the 29th of September 2024, they attended a yacht party at a popular surf beach near Devil's Throat off the coast of Sao Paulo, Brazil, with a host of fellow influencers. This pic was one of many taken on the yacht before what would evidently turn out to be the second double Darwin Award of today's video, but not the last. When the booze ran dry and the party was over, it was time to head back to shore. It was here the partygoers split into 2 separate groups, taking 2 separate speedboats to shore. However, 27-year-old Beatrice and 37-year-old Arlene both refused to wear a life jacket. Local police commissioner Marcus Alexandre Afino later said, based on testimony by the boat's captain, The two women refused to wear a life jacket because they got in the way of their tanning. Unfortunately for the ladies though, the area, known for its choppy water and strong current, caused the overcrowded speedboat to capsize, throwing all 7 occupants into the water. The captain and the 4 others, all wearing their life jackets, were rescued. According to the New York Post, the Brazil maritime firefighters recovered the body of Beatriz Tavares de Silva Faria after drifting out to sea, while the body of Tamara Moreira de Amorim, who could not swim, washed ashore 1 week later. Every year since 1986, the Arctic Man Ski and Snow Go Classic in the Hoodoo Mountains of eastern Alaska has attracted upward of 15,000 people to watch extreme skiing merge with high-speed snowmobiling. Taking place around 230 miles northeast of Anchorage, the largest city in Alaska, the 4.5-mile event is a spectacle like no other. After descending a 1,700-foot slope, skiers link up with their snowmobiling partners, who tow them back to the top, reaching speeds of 90 miles per hour. After reaching the top, they release the rope and begin a 1,200-foot descent. The event attracts an army of fans, spectators, and partygoers, many of whom bringing their own snowmobiles to have their own fun when not watching the competition. In the year 2000, however, the event was most remembered for 2 separate incidents that resulted in today's 3rd double Darwin Award. The first incident, and perhaps the most straightforward of the two, occurred on the Friday of the multi-day event when 26-year-old Craig Demoski of Fairbanks was engaging in some after-hours high-speed antics on his 1997 Arctic Cat snow machine along Arctic Man Road around 10:15 p.m. Despite the numerous 5 miles per hour signposts along the way, according to State Trooper Sergeant Ronald Wall, Demoski was travelling at excessive speed. No doubt it would have been quite the thrill, speeding along with the wind in his face and nothing but open road ahead. That was, until a parked trailer on the side of the road abruptly ended the ride. Unable to stop, he crashed into it, suffering severe injuries and dying shortly after. As tragic as the incident was, more would come the next day. Ordinarily, a man killed by an avalanche would be the victim of a natural disaster and would not be eligible to feature in a video titled "The Silliest Ways People Died." But when an avalanche killed 43-year-old Walter Cote, it was entirely of his own doing. Despite constant warnings to spectators using their own snowmobiles to avoid the unmanicured slopes due to the high risk of an avalanche, many ignored the warnings. On the morning of the Saturday, the 8th of April 2000, the day following the death of Craig Demoski, who had ploughed into the back of the trailer, state troopers and event organisers rescued a small group of men who had been buried by a minor avalanche while high marking off the beaten track. High marking is where riders attempt to climb as high as possible on a steep, snowy slope before turning their snowmobiles and heading back down. Although popular, there's a high risk of triggering an avalanche, and that's exactly what had happened to these guys. A little bruised and shaken, the men were uninjured. Among those rescued was 43-year-old Walter Cote of Fairbanks. Now, after being rescued from a minor avalanche, one might have heeded the warnings to stay clear of the unstable slopes. Alas, this was not the case. Instead, Cody got back on his snowmobile and went off high marking around 2 miles from the well-groomed course. As State Trooper Sergeant Ronald Wall would later tell the media, "We can't protect people from themselves." Witnessed by a few of his friends, Walter Cote triggered the second avalanche of the day. Unfortunately for him though, this one was bigger and he was completely buried. His body was found the next day laying face up, covered by several feet of snow. Now, you would think the recreational pastime of radio-controlled airplanes would be a safe enough sport. Alas, while researching this last story, I came across several unlikely incidents resulting in fatal outcomes. On Thursday, the 1st of June 2023, 64-year-old Jose Juan died after being struck by a radio-controlled airplane in the Spanish province of Valencia. The plane, weighing roughly 17 pounds, was flying around 37 miles per hour when it struck him in the head as he tried to cross the designated runway. A 53-year-old man died in the German city of Stuttgart in late 2012 when he was struck by an RC plane flown by another man who had lost control of it due to the high winds. But this next death was, without a doubt, the weirdest of all the ones I read. On the 18th of May 2002, 60-year-old Roger Wallace of Tucson, Arizona, was flying his radio-controlled airplane near Pima County Fairgrounds. A member of the Arizona Modelers, a radio-controlled airplane group, his plane, according to the Arizona Daily Star, weighed around 6.5 pounds and had a wingspan of almost 5 feet. Roger, a former drag racer at a nearby racing strip, had joined the RC club 3 years earlier, telling the club president he needed a safer hobby. At around 9:30 a.m., whilst flying his plane with his fellow club members, Roger became blinded by the morning sun. In what can only be described as one of the most unluckiest deaths I've covered, having lost sight of his plane, he flew it into himself. He would not regain consciousness and was pronounced dead shortly after. South Arizona Modelers Club president Jerry Niebel said, "This was just the freakiest of freak accidents that could possibly happen." That's all the stories for today. If you know a Darwinian tale that needs telling, let me know in the comments and it may make a future episode. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd love it if you subscribed and joined me for the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.